Good morning, everyone. Welcome to 2015. This is Eric, and I am sending a follow-up to your rankings reports from yesterday. As you most likely noticed, we have a new reporting system. And why did we go to this? Because it's giving us better results overall. It's considerably faster report. It runs at the same time each day. It's going to get these reports out to you in an automatic fashion at about 3 a.m. on the 30th. We think that's currently the best time for that. But every month it'll send this to you on the 30th of the month. We haven't seen what it's actually going to do yet for February, but it should be fairly predictable. We don't have to worry about internet glitches, taking rankings up or down for some arbitrary reason. This is all cloud and server based for all of our customers. It's going to be done at the same time of the day every month, and just the big thing for us was it was going to be able to give you nice, regular, consistent readouts. The software that we have been using is actually being discontinued, and as some of you probably remember, we did have some issues with it. It was not being maintained. They're going to go to a server-based thing. So we had to change software, and this actually we tested out for about a month or so and looked wonderful. It gave us good reports. It was very easy to use and very easy to understand as far as the reporting. Which brings me to, why am I sending this out? Because not everyone actually understood what they were seeing. So here is a quick overview. This is actually a report for my girlfriend's hair salon, and I didn't want to show anyone's specific stats, but hers are fine. So here we're doing this for a hair salon in Clayton, and it's a big fish in a small pond. It's not a hugely competitive area, so she actually has pretty good rankings. Of course, we've been working on her site for 5 years now. But at any rate, this is the way your email would look. You may or may not be using Outlook. I use Outlook, but it should look pretty similar regardless of what you are using. Over here, you'll see this is the quick stats area. This gives you just a quick overview, and I figured that's probably where most people were actually interested anyway. Shows you the number of terms we're actually checking. This includes the local and the map stuff. So the box over here is term ranks and changes. And in this situation, in this particular month, we had been accumulating data for the last 3 weeks or so. However, when I went to send out reports yesterday, I noticed there was an awful lot of people that should have been showing ones that weren't showing ones. Why was that? Well, it wasn't looking up the local maps. So those little local places, the place where you get the 3, 5, or 7, 6 sometimes, depending on Google's whim for that particular page, were not actually being counted. So people were showing up not with the maps placements that they should have had. So I had to go back yesterday morning and re-enter all the data, which reset all the data numbers that we had been accumulating. So the reports that you got yesterday, I have just entered as of yesterday morning. I think I discovered this problem about 7 o'clock or so. So I had to re-enter everything. So most of you would be showing zeros for last week, last month. It wouldn't show you any changes. You can go back and look at your reports from last month and see how anything changed. Overall, we actually had good months, or a good month across the board. A lot of things did go up, and as always, there's jostling. But for here, we have the current ranks. This shows how many number ones you would currently have. This is the changes in the last 24 hours. When you get your next reports, you'll see that you probably did not have any changes in the last 24 hours. Certainly no changes in the week or the month because it hadn't accumulated that much data yet. Next month, you will actually probably not show any changes for the month because it's going to run on the 30th, and I put all this data in on the 1st. But the following month, you should be able to see monthly changes. The top threes are here, and again, that's 24-hour changes. And so one modified. Top 10s, there's 12. Top 20s, so that would end up being overall a good number of entries there. I was trying to do some mental numbers in my head there. That didn't work out so well. Anyway, here's the name of your location, and this is the category that I've assigned it to. It's really sort of, for our tracking, it's sort of immaterial. Now, when you get down into the details, you can actually see The term that is being searched, this is the term that we are ranking for. In this case, it's a number 1. This is women's hair coloring Clayton. And in this one, we use women's hair coloring Clayton NC. You're going to see that in a lot of your reports because Google usually prompts you to enter the city and state. It usually is one of the suggestions when people go to hunt down a search of some sort. So whereas I may search for just women's hair, and may search for women's hair coloring, may search for women's hair coloring Clayton, we try and cover all of our bases, particularly those in the way that Google suggests. So in this case, we would have something like that. This is going to be the same across everybody's reports. But over here, you do have the current rank. These are always going to be out of the Google engine. We can also check Bing down the road. Bing is actually becoming a little more popular. The rankings from Bing tend to be a little bit different. They do not take into account the links that we are sending back to your site. So there's a different way they actually measure and rank sites. But in many cases, our sites usually do really well. We've had a number of sites that just show up at number 1. And the reason they might not show up in number 1 in Google is because they don't have the proper social signals, or they don't have the proper link placements, or someone has better link placements or links pointing to them at the current time. There's some sites that are just very, very difficult. If you've ever tried to beat out a government site, it's almost impossible. Those are very, very strong links they have going to them. At any rate, here's the rank. This will show your day changes, same as week, month. This shows over here the number of local searches and global searches. In many cases, this is going to be the same. Now, this shows that there are absolutely no searches whatsoever for this particular term. And I can tell you, and I know from strong experience, this is BS. Google does not do a wonderful job of tracking lower volume searches. When you start getting up into a few hundred, Google can and does actually have good data, and they also have data here. How much of it they allow to go out in the wild? Not as much as you would think. They don't really want you to know what's actually getting, the specific number of searches. So this may actually have 25, that may have 30. I know she gets phone calls, so I know this is actually working fine. I'm not sure how many. We could scroll down a little bit. I know how many phone calls she gets versus how many placements she's got, but yeah, these sites do actually, or these search terms do actually get punched in and found by users out there via Google. So, however, the one thing that we do like to keep in mind, and the one thing this report shows us, is what Google is willing to tell us. So we'll scroll down a little bit. Now we'll see here that we actually are showing 20 searches for haircut Clayton NC. So there's 20 searches local, 20 searches global. We have used the NC on this one, which is pretty common. Another thing that actually is going on with this one is there's a question here, what would something like this be? So this is the little Google map thing right there, and what this says is the map falls at position 1, and then this particular site page are in position 2, position B. There can be anywhere from 1 to 7 of those map placements. In this case, I couldn't tell you how many there actually are, but she's sitting there as the number 2 spot in that Google map. So that's what those mean. But then you can scroll on down and see all those things. That's probably the biggest question people have. But you can see the different terms that are being used through here. And there are usually variations. We try and cover a lot of variations. I tried to cut down on some of the reports. Some of these reports were massive with hundreds of things, and we just cannot be doing all that searching. And a lot of it is just really extraneous. So we're going to try and keep an eye on the things that are generating the most volume and going forward, because we now have this data based on specific and current Google data, then you'll actually be able to see the terms that we're going to be shooting for. Generally, we would look at these terms when we start working on sites, and then as time goes along, we don't necessarily know when these terms have changed. Something may be more popular now than it was when we started on a specific site. Every month, though, we can see what Google says actually is being searched right now. So that is an awesome feature for us. Allows us to more laser focus on the terms that are going to be meaningful for you. And now down here, some of these you're going to see NAs. This means not available. And the reason for that is, in many cases, it is because there, for example, is no map associated with that, or we already have a map ranking above it, or we already have another entry up. I am going to be trying to work on these so it only shows the things that actually have viable information, as opposed to, yeah, this doesn't exist. But I decided yesterday morning at 7 o'clock it was more imperative to get the information out to everybody than to sit and go through another 10 tweaks to try and remove that data. At any rate, that is what you are seeing on your reports. That is why you're seeing zeros here. So yes, many of you did have great movement last month. It was not a ridiculous Google changes month, which makes everybody happy. And that's about it. These reports, as I mentioned, will be coming out on the 30th of every month. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact either Rob or myself, depending on who actually is working with your account. And we appreciate you as customers. We look forward to being able to provide these particular reports to you on a very regular basis. And no, something happened to the internet connection. These things are going to work beautifully. We're very excited about them and what it's going to mean for you and your business. Thanks, and have a great new year.